I would like to call this meeting to order. Any disclosure of interest? I think with the board's indulgence, I'd like to move the closed session to the end of the meeting, as it has been habitually. It is there by error, so if there is no disagreement, that's what we'll do. Minutes of September 26. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, if I could have a motion to adopt. Moved by Carol, seconded by Jim. All in favor? Thank you. Business arising. The only thing I saw was the business case for the purchase and deployment of radar units. Joe, is there anything on that or carrying it forward?
There we go. It is, the business case is just about done. I'm just waiting for a few letters of support from some community groups. If we could move it to the November meeting, I would appreciate it.
Okay, and that would be fine. Any other business arising that anyone else saw? If we could move on to correspondence, the community policing minutes. Any questions or comments? I'm just presuming that Michelle can contact the Norfolk County Solicitor and get the answers that she wants directly. Any other questions or comments about the community policing chair's minutes? Seeing none, if we could move on to the letter from Superintendent Bedard, which includes the 2019 cost estimates. Superintendent has given us a quick version in his cover page of about 1.9% general salary increase, but that obviously isn't the total story, since the cost for 2019 is up a lot more than that. So Joe, if you would be so kind as to walk us through this.
Okay, I will do my
ahead.
best. If there are any specific questions that you have that I don't have the answer, then I will contact municipal policing and get those for you. But I will try to keep it relatively simple. So in the cover letter, as Superintendent Bedard has indicated, this year's billing package includes a statement of the 2017 year-end reconciliation, and the final cost adjustment calculated includes the annual reconciliation has been included in the 2019 calendar year. Also, because our OPPA and uniform civilian and collective agreements expire on December 31st of this year, and negotiations are currently underway, they've estimated salary rates incorporated into the 2019 municipal statement has a 1.9% general salary rate increase, so that municipalities don't have the potential to incur a significant adjustment at the end of the cycle. And the final reconciliation for 2019 annual costs, of course, will be included in the 2021 annual billing statement. So on page 14, we have the 2019 annual billing statement, and this is the estimated cost for the period of January 1st to December 31st, 2019. As we know, cost recovery for policing municipalities breaks down into two categories: base services and calls for service. And calculations for these are done annually regarding the time spent in municipalities doing proactive policing, which is base services, and then responding to reactive calls for services. So base services, every municipality pays the same base rate per property for the availability of policing services and the resources required 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This amount is calculated each year, and this base rate is multiplied by the number of properties, residential, commercial, and industrial, in the municipality. So on page 14, we can see the base service at the top. We have the property counts, total properties in Norfolk total 31,355 5. And the cost per property is $189.54. Extrapolated is $5,977,144. The $189.54 number, if we turn to page 3, is the calculation of how they came up with $189.54. It takes in the salary and benefits of the uniform, detachment civilians, support staff, and other direct operating expenses. And then that's all calculated out and comes out to $189.54. The second cost recovery is the calls for service. And that is determined by the frequency and severity of the reactive calls for service in the municipality. And then the municipality is charged their percentage of the total municipal workload from across the province based on weighted averaged hours for the reactive calls for service. So if we go back to page 14, calls for service, total for all municipalities is the 156,778,914. Norfolk County's municipal portion is 3.6710%. The cost per property for the calls for service is $182.51, extrapolated out $57,55338. Page 18 through to 29 shows the page 8 shows the calls for service billing summary. So,
Just a sec, we have a question.
sorry.
Joe, my pages aren't numbered at the bottom like
Oh,
yours, so it would be helpful that,
I'm looking at the very bottom right
yes.
corners. Right above it, it might say 5 of 24.
Yeah, the 5 of 24
Okay.
I can relate to if you can use those.
Okay,
while
yep,
we're on
I
this.
can use
Thank you.
those.
I may be the only one, but
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought they were numbered at the 18. So 5 of 24 through to 14 of 24. So the calls for service billing work groups are drug possession, drugs, operational 2, and so forth. And starting on page 7 of 24, we have the billing work groups listed, and then we have the calls for service count for Norfolk County through the years 2014 to 2017 in all the different categories. Those are, each category, take a 4-year average, which is listed in the right-hand column. And then the 4-year average for each billing group, there's a standard provincial time assigned to each call for service. So for drug possession, it's 6.4. And the 4-year average for drug possession is 119. A times B is the total weighted time, and then the percent of total provincial weighted time is listed in the second to right column as a percentage. That is the percentage that Norfolk County provincially is responsible for. That's multiplied by the weighted time, which gives the estimated calls for service cost. That is all added up to give a provincial total. And then
I think there's probably one point that needs to be made there, is that our 4-year average calls for service in 2015 was 14,056, and the 4-year average now is 14,274, which means we're up 1.6%. problem is that the rest of the province is down, down from considerably. So provincial total from 2014 to 2017 was 369,462. But from the period 2012 to 2015, it was 387,587. So we get a bit of a double whammy here with our calls for service being up and everyone else's being down. It's a little bit of a double jeopardy. So our percentage of the total from the province is up significantly. So I thought I would just bring that to the board's attention. And Joe, I'll let you carry on.
Okay, so the total for all municipalities is multiplied by the municipal portion, which comes out to the 182.51. Also included in the annual estimated billing are overtime, a portion of overtime which is occurs within the municipality. That is 12.29 per property. And then contract enhancements pre-2015 are also added in at 49 cents per property. That is got so many charts here. And then we have court security at 10.44 per property, which is explained on page 17 of 24. Because we have a courthouse within our municipality, we're responsible for court security. Prisoner transportation is set for all municipalities at $227 per property. And accommodation and cleaning services, because we're in a provincially owned building, they assign a portion for that at $4.90 per property. All that is extrapolated out and added. So the 2019 total estimated cost per property is $402.44. Extrapolated out is $12,690,927. For comparison, 2018 estimated cost per property was $392.14. So we have a cost per property variance of an increase of $10.30. We add in contract enhancements added after January 1st, 2015. And then we subtract the 2017 year-end adjustment, which is also explained on page 19 of 24. So there's the rebate of $25,267. So the grand estimated total billing for 2019 is $12,909,310, which works out to a monthly billing amount of $1,075,776.
Questions, Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, just your last couple of comments were the most important ones for me. That statement of $12,909,310 is on page 1 of 24. I guess that overall summary, isn't it? And would you mind the cost per household 2018 to projected 2019 again? Those two numbers?
Actually, if you look up from that.
402.44.
Yeah, and then right above that we have the 392.14.
Gotcha.
That
Thank
is
you.
yeah. So then, works out for the 1030.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a few comments, but I'm going to make them in camera. So I think with the board's indulgence, what I would like to do is accept this as information together with the other items of correspondence and not accept it as the budget for 2019, if there would be agreement to just carry on to do that. If we could carry on with letter from Crime Stoppers dated 2018, it was basically a thank you for our whole sponsorship during the summer. Any questions or comments on that one? Seeing none, if I could have a motion to adopt 6A to 6C as information. Moved by Dave, seconded by Charlie. All in favor? Jim, go ahead.
And on that, Mr. Chairman, of wanting to just receive it as information, personally, for me, I'm comfortable with that, given my role on the board is going to cease in the next 5 weeks, as will Mayor Luke. So it's perhaps appropriate that the new board will have a kick at this. Is that part of where you're going, that it will probably be into December before the decision would actually be made to
Absolutely.
accept?
I think it's going to be, I mean, obviously, it's a budget for the new council, and one that will be dealt with by the new board, and obviously there's going to be substantial turnover on the new board. So I think that they should have some degree of input on what's coming down the pipe, and I don't know how council's handling the new budget for 2019, but obviously this is a big increase, so that was my thought.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with that. Now, you describe it as a big increase. If I may, unless I'm misunderstanding, do you want to have any further discussion on this, or do you want to just?
No, absolutely. If there's questions here that.
My question to Joe about the increase in cost per household, a $10 increase based on $392 per household the year before, that doesn't strike me as significant, unless there's some other aspect to it that I'm not seeing at this point. But
As I stated at the start, this estimate does take into account a estimated 1.9% salary increase. So I think that if we factored that out, we'd probably be pretty close to even.
No, I don't even remotely agree with that. If we go to page 19 of 24, it's the reconciled cost for January 1st to December 31st. And 2017 billed amount was $12,200,000, of which we overpaid. So we got back $25,267. If we go back to page 1 of 24, the 12,900 does not include the 25,000 overpayment. So the correct number for 2019 would be 12,900 plus 25,000. So 134,577, adding it in my head. So that is a significant increase, but most of it, we have the 1.8% increase in police salaries, but we also have a municipal portion increase, which is the big one. Our calls for service are up and the province are down. So that explains most of it. And the big driver for calls for service has been Assist Public, which seems to be just a catch-all that when you don't know what to do with it, it goes into Assist Public. But the calls are happening, and there's no getting around that, and it explains most of the increase, but there is an increase.
And I'm certainly not questioning that, Mr. Chairman, and, but taken down to the level of cost per household, I guess, is what I can relate to most easily. And but my point being, I agree with you in terms of having the new board take a crack at this probably at their first meeting. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If we could move on to the OPP monthly report, page 39.
For September 2018, overtime allotment per the contract, $366,903. Dollars spent to date, estimate, $275,6734, which works out to 75% of the overtime budget. Auxiliary policing hours for the month of September, 436. Crime Stoppers, summary of activities for September 2018. So far, they've had 393 anonymous tips received this year. Student Crime Stoppers Chair Neil Unwin and our coordinator attended all the Haldeman High Schools and offered support for their various Crime Stoppers programs, and they will be attending the Norfolk High Schools to do the same shortly. They participated in presented to the Dunnville Salvation Army, the Donnybrook Fair, the Hope in High Heels, and attended the Caledonia Fair. The Boston Pizza fundraising dinner is set for January 2019, and the board is actively considering any other ideas or options for fundraising for the program. Locally dedicated hours of overtime for September, we have 451 and a quarter municipal and 212.38 for provincial. Moving on to the analytics. If we go to the graphs. So all violent crime, based on a 5-year trend, it was estimated that the Norfolk OPP could expect between 31 and 42 events. During the reported month, 33 actual events were investigated.
Which page are you on?
I've gone to the graphs, the first graph of all violent crime. I'll come back to the traffic statistics at the end.
So page 44 or 49?
Mine's not numbered in this section. No, 49. And then I'll come back to the traffic stats. So all violent crimes reported within the projected range for September. Assaults, based on a 5-year trend, we could expect 24 events. During September, 22 actual events were investigated, and assault events reported within the projected range for September. Domestic disturbances, based on a 5-year trend, it was estimated that we could expect between 41 and 53 events. During the month of September, 37 actual events were investigated. So this domestic disturbance reported below the projected range for September, pardon me. All property crime, based on a 5-year trend, it was estimated that we could expect between 112 and 169 events. During the reported month, 113 actual events were reported, which fell within the projected range for September. Break-and-enters, based on the 5-year trend, it was expected that we could expect 23 events. During the actual month of September, 19 events were investigated, so break-and-enters reported below the expected number. Frauds, based on a 5-year trend, it was estimated that we could expect between a range of 10 and 22 events. During the month of September, 12 events were actually investigated, which was within our projected range for September. Mischiefs, it was based on the 5-year trend, it was estimated that we could expect 34 events. During the month of September, 25 actual events were investigated, which is below our projected range. Theft from motor vehicle, based on the 5-year trend, we could expect 14 events. During the month of September, 13 actual events were investigated. So theft from motor vehicles reported below their projected. Theft of motor vehicle, based on the 5-year trend, it was estimated that we could expect between 7 and 15 events for September. During the month, 7 actual events were investigated, which was within our projected range. Theft under 5,000, based on the 5-year trend, we could expect 50 events. During the month of September, 43 actual events were investigated, which was under our expected for September. Drugs, based on a 5-year trend, it was estimated that we could expect 8 events. During the reported month, 2 actual events were investigated. Drugs reported below the expected for September, and during the reported period, we had no warrants executed. 5 persons were charged with a total of 29 charges, all criminal code charges, and we had 0 seizures, 0 property seizures, and no vehicles seized or cash during this time frame. Our street team was on annual retraining for most of the month. 911 calls and 911 hang-ups. Based on a 5-year trend, it was expected we could see between 238 and 284 events. During the reported month, only 111 actual events were investigated. Why the dramatic drop, I don't know, but I was very happy to see that. Alarms, based on a 5-year trend, it was expected we could see between 42 and 77 events. And during the month, there was actually only 25 alarms investigated, which again was a nice unexpected drop. Collisions. All collision types for September reported below the projected range at 63. All collision types did see a decrease of 10, or 13.7% from September last year. A year-to-date decrease of 3.4% was observed from the same time frame last year. Property damage collisions for September reported within the projected range at 48. Property damage collisions did see a decrease of 4, or 7.7% from September last year. A year-to-date increase of 4.3 was observed from the same time frame last year. Non-fatal injury collisions for September reported within the projected range at 14. Non-fatal injury collisions did see a decrease of 7, or 33.3% from September last year, and a year-to-date decrease of 27.8% was observed from the same time frame last year. Non-fatal collisions totaled 14 for September. In reviewing the collisions, they ranked as follows. We had 5 inattentive drivers, 3 failed to yield the right of way, 2 disobeyed traffic control, 1 lost control, 1 made an improper turn, 1 followed too closely, and 1 was improperly passing. We had fatal collision for September was within the projected range at 1, which is a 100% increase from September last year. And year-to-date, your decrease of 14.3% was observed from the same time frame last year. We did unfortunately have 1 fatal collision that occurred on the 21st of September on Norfolk County Highway 24 East. It was a single motor vehicle in which the vehicle ran off the roadway and ended up in a ditch.
Okay, we have a question there, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, just a very quick question. You used the term when you were first giving us the non-fatal stats, inattentive driver. Is that the same as a distracted driver, or are they 2 separate? Because we think of distracted now meaning someone on their cell phone.
Inattentive would fall under the distracted.
Okay.
Or distracted driving falls under the inattentive.
All right. Thank you.
Impaired driving, based on a 5-year trend, it was estimated that we could expect 2 events. During the month of September, 8 actual events were investigated. Impaired driving events reported above the projected range for September. In reviewing the events for September, there was no identified explanation for the increase. Typically, September, we don't see this many impaired drivers. However, the events occurred all throughout the county and involved cars, motorcycles, and boats, so all forms of transportation there. Mental Health Act, based on a 5-year trend, it was estimated that we could expect 44 events. During the reported month, 33 actual events were investigated. During the month of September, members investigated the 33 events, dedicating 190.5 hours to their investigation. So the average year-to-date time spent per mental health call is 6 hours. And Mental Health Act events reported below the projected range for September.
And the 6 hours doesn't include the mental health crisis workers that we have too. Is that correct?
The mental health crisis workers ride with the officer, so that 6-hour total is the time, the initial call, the follow-up that the mental health workers do after is not included in that 6 hours.
No, thank you.
Foot patrol for September, 350 hours, 350 and a quarter hours was spent throughout the county. Bicycle patrol saw 3.5 hours being conducted, and 35 school visits were conducted in September. Driving charges, we look at August because we're always behind because of the way it's captured. We had 1 distracted driver, 3 for racing, 149 for speeding, and 6 impaired driving again. License suspensions for August, we had 14 roadside screenings done, 18 roadside ADLS suspensions, 10 3-day suspensions, 14 rides conducted, and 1 seatbelt conducted. Focus patrols. We had a focus patrol for the Norfolk County Fair in regards to unwanted activity at the fair. So as a result of the focus patrol, we had 26 uniform members dedicated 74 and a quarter hours. In addition, we had 12 auxiliary members dedicate 60 hours to monitoring the parking lots to deter vehicle thefts and theft from vehicles. And during the Norfolk County Fair, we dealt with 5 missing children, 2 police assistance calls, 2 liquor license acts calls, 2 911 calls, 1 assault, 1 domestic, and 1 theft, and 1 trouble with youth call. We had no reported vehicle thefts or theft from motor vehicle occurrences during the fair. In traffic focus patrol, we still have our HSD Big 4 focus patrol on McDowell Road, which runs until the end of December. And so far, we've issued 10 speeding charges, 3 other HTA charges, 1 Insurance Act charge, and in addition to 4 warnings. We're also continuing to run our Big 4 focus patrol on Highway 3, which runs until the end of December. And we've had 1 speeding charge made there. County Road 23, our Big 4 for ride, is still running until the end of September. And September total, we had 80 vehicles checked, resulting in 1 charge. And we currently have a focus patrol being conducted on Thompson Road in Villanova as a result of a neighborhood complaint from the citizens that live there, and a speed spy study. Speed spy studies, we conducted 1 on Lyndale Road. No issue was found. Thompson Road, Villanova, as I said, we have a focus patrol going on there. Burford Delhi Town Line, in the area of Calvin, we did a speed spy. There is a problem, and we'll be doing a focus patrol shortly. Concession 6 Woodhouse, speed spy study, there is no problem there. And we currently have 1 ongoing in Bloomsburg and Hillcrest Road. Any questions?
Any questions for the inspector? Any questions for the inspector on any other topic? Seeing none, if we could have a motion to adopt his report. Moved by Jim, seconded by Carol. All in favor? Other business. Question period. Monty, do you have anything? so.
There we go. Okay, all right. Make contact here. Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, just with regard to some of these numbers here, just want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. I see that under inspector on page 3 of 24, there's a number 25.77. Is that to say there's 25, the equivalent basically of 25.77 inspectors across Ontario? That, so 1,809 constables across Ontario? Those are provincial numbers. That's good. Okay. And with the reconciliation, I always get confused by this. I saw the number $25,000 and change in brackets. Is that to say that Norfolk County is getting a rebate basically on the reconciliation of $25,000? Okay, that's great. And what is the number we're working with regard to 2018? What is the number that ultimately will have to be reconciled at the end of 2018 with actuals? It's got to be like in the range of $12 million somewhere, I imagine. Yes, yes. $12,374,000. Okay. Alrighty, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Monty. If there are no other questions, if I could have a motion to move into closed session. Moved by Dave, seconded by Charlie. All in favor? Thank you.